What is going on, guys? Welcome back to yet again another video, and for today we're going to be tackling the topic of pro points. Yes, I know it's everyone's favorite topic right now. I know I've been waiting to make a video, just kind of waiting for certain stuff to kick off. But waiting to make a few interesting videos that kind of off topic, just kind of, filler videos to kind of keep things going throughout the week. Kind of just waiting for current topics, current, things that are kind of in the scene right now to update and stuff like that. But until that happens, I was like, you know what, let's talk about the pro point system. This is a hot topic right now. Players aren't happy. It's currently kind of an inefficient system, but I'm going to be looking at it from the point of, this is the pro point system. This is how they have to do it. These are things that I think they could improve on, and ways to do it in the future so that when it comes down to next title, which could be Advanced Warfare 2, I mean, I'm just going to call it AW2 just because that's what the previous title was from Sledgehammer, was Advanced Warfare. So developing a system to the point where when it comes into the next title, we're not in the same place. So first things first, right? Let's go and talk about the current pro point system. So if you go to game battles, obviously you can make a team. Of course, if you're all above the age of 18, which I hope that you are, unless you just want to say that you are and you lie, which is many players have done that already, which is one of the things that we'll be talking about today. But basically, you can sign up, play as a 4v4 team, and start trying to grind your way through the pro point ladder. Now, will you be in the top 10 if you're just starting now to get into MLG Atlanta? No, because for those who don't know, the top 10 players, or the top 10 teams, in pro points will be awarded into that group play spot at MLG Atlanta, along with 6 European teams who are finding their way through pro points and also are going to have a Gfinity tournament to help decide that as well. So, now that we have a little bit of context as to how this happens, essentially, to get pro points, it is decided on playing against amateur teams, or just really you're playing against a number of different squads, right? You're playing against a number of different teams that are in this current ladder. I'm not sure how many teams there are exactly, but just know it's a lot. There's a lot of different teams that you're going to be playing against if you start your journey into trying to get in the top 10, or at least just trying to grind through the current pro point ladder to try to gain yourself some pro status, right? So let's say that you're trying to grind through the pro point ladder. You're obviously getting random team after random team after random team. You say you're like 3-0, and then you get matched up with a pro team. You lose that one, and then you keep moving forward, moving forward. So you have some pro points you're trying to gain a little bit through the ladder, but think of this from a pro point, or from a pro level status, right? So say that I am currently Team Envious. They are in the 11th spot as it currently stands. I'm going to link this down in the description. So there's actually going to be a number of different links down in the description if you guys want to follow along with me. So yeah, I was going to put that down there. I'm going to have a number of different stuff to kind of talk about. So if you guys want to kind of follow along, kind of get a little bit of an idea as to what I'm currently looking at, we can kind of see alongside of each other. So what I'm currently looking at is the pro point standings. Right now, this is on COD Esports Wikis. I'm going to have this as the first link down in the description, which it currently has the pro points standings, obviously, as it stands. The totals for each squad, who's currently in what placement. If you go down to the 10th, 11th spot, Echo Fox, who's currently in 10th, and Team Envious is currently in 11th. So like I said, now that you have context to it, Team Envious, I'm a pro point team. I'm a defending champs for Black Ops 3. That doesn't really matter because everyone starts on the same frame as far as things are considered, besides pool play and MLG Vegas. We all start, in some cases, from scratch when it comes to the pro point ladder. Like I said, besides MLG Vegas, right? So we're currently starting from scratch. We're all on the same level. We all get matched up with the same teams. It's not that Team Envious gets, in some cases, more professional teams to play against. They don't get to play against semi-pros. They don't really get to play against other players. They play against the same people that you are playing against as well. At which point you might be saying that's a good thing, which I agree. I think that is a good thing in some cases, but it's also a bad thing as far as the system is considered, because if I am Team Envious right now, right? I'm Team Envious. There was just a 2K announced that's going to be happening on the 8th, which is probably when this video goes up. It's currently the 7th for me. A 2K that was announced 3 days ago. This is very, very important for Team Envious because they are currently not in the top 10 for MLG Atlanta. So they are residing on the fact of grinding through these matches and trying to get a high placement in that 2K. If they do not, that's going to be very difficult for them because, of course, 2Ks are going to happen here and there, but unless they start to get high placements in these 2Ks, they're going to be in a very awkward spot and might have to play through the open bracket when it comes down to Atlanta, which is obviously not what anyone wants to play in, especially if you are, in some cases, considered a pro player. Now, with that in mind, hold that thought, because now let's talk about the definition of a pro player. Who is a pro player, right? Because back in Advanced Warfare, which I'm going to have another link to you guys, back in Advanced Warfare, pro points decided how high up of a pro you were. There was either professional, there was semi-pro, and there was amateur. Depending on your pro point status, how many pro points that you had compared to everyone else, that's how you where basically you were relied upon in the pro point status, or the pro point level status, excuse me. And that's always been a major question for Call of Duty in general, is right, how do you decide who's a professional player? And I could talk about that for a separate video, but I'm not going to, obviously. But how do you, in some cases, decide who is a professional player, who is a semi-professional player, and who is a amateur player? I know a lot of amateur players or semi-pros like to dictate that based on placements at major tournaments, which I can kind of see that as a little bit of a gauge, but who really knows that? If you come back from previous titles, say that you skipped Ghosts, you skipped Advanced Warfare, you skipped Black Ops 3, but now you're back for Infinite Warfare. Are you automatically a semi-pro? Are you automatically an amateur if you had high placements back in Black Ops 2? Like, how do you, it's just not an efficient way to decide that particular thing. So I think that pro points are good from that particular standpoint, because that is a way we can say, these are the pros, these are the semi-pros, and these are the amateur players. So now that we go back to the topic of where Envious is currently at, you have to take in consideration as well and saying, there are teams who are in a perfect spot. Rise Nation, who's in second place. Cloud9, Optic Gaming, FaZe Clan, top 4 currently in pro points. They are good, right? They're good. They're fine for Atlanta. Unless 2Ks take over and something miraculous happens, they're good, especially Rise Nation. I mean, they are currently 12,000 points away from the second place team, as they should be, right? They just won MLG Vegas. So this is where it, to me, becomes an issue. Because Team Envious, who needs to scrim just as much as every other team does, cannot scrim because they are relying on these 2Ks that are very scarce here and there, and on these grinding matches that they have to consistently do on a regular basis, which takes away from their scrimming time. So you're looking at teams who in some cases have already had great placements, who are already up here, right? Rise Nation, Cloud9's, Optic, Phases of the world. And you have Team Envious, who's currently down here in the pro point status, but based on their pro point level, this team automatically rises up, no pun intended, because they have already a higher placements, which means they can focus on their scrims, they can focus on the things that are important. But when it comes down to Team Envious, what do, right? They have to rely on playing in these, mini matches, these amateur matches they're playing against, so they can play 3v4, don't even worry about it. They can just kind of relax and play these matches, right? There was a video that came out, actually from Infuse, Marky B's perspective, for those who don't know Marky B, European player, very talented European player at that, and he fell asleep during one of these matches. I mean, it's so easy for them, which I'm glad that it is, but it's almost like there's no competition. They're not gaining anything. All they're gaining, in some cases, a little bit of game knowledge here and there. Maybe they're seeing a few interesting strategies, but they're not working on themselves as a team. So when it comes down to Gfinity that's coming up for the European players, when it comes down to MLG Atlanta, which everyone's eyes are focusing on that, there's going to be, when you get into that game, if you haven't scrimmed in a while, which thank God teams are finally starting to scrim a little bit, they're kind of saying, you know what, we'll just focus on the 2K. We're not going to worry about these pro point matches. But once you get back into scrimming, if you're in a very difficult spot and you don't have time to scrim, when it comes down to MLG Atlanta, you're going to be saying, oh God, like we haven't practiced against teams who are nearly as good as them, or nearly as good as these teams that we're facing at MLG Atlanta in a very long time. It's been a good month or so that we've been playing against these easy teams, occasionally a pro team here and there, but we're not at all on the level that we should be because we're not practicing. We're not getting key practice. So that's, to me, where the major portion of the issue lies, is that, certain teams, or professional teams, are getting a much higher advantage over having free time or having time to work on scrimmages and whatnot, compared to certain teams who have no chance or have a very slim chance of making into the top 10 because of a placement at one tournament that was at the beginning of a game that not many people knew about, that had a patch that came out right before then. So you kind of get my point, right? There's a lot of little inconsistencies that are really unfortunate, and that just comes with Call of Duty switching titles every year. And like I said, I think that there needs to be a system that kind of develops from year to year, saying if you played Infinite Warfare, here are your pro points. When it comes down to AW2, Part 2, 2.0, you kind of have, in some cases, advantage over other players as well. So then I kind of put that in context. I'm now going to be talking about some of my things that I think we could kind of add into it. Just some ideas that I personally have, that I've kind of written down, that I've kind of taken notes over time, looking at pro players, kind of complaints from pro players, and whatnot, and kind of maybe add that in, but still keeping the same frame of mind, right? Because I know what the pro point ladder is trying to do. I totally understand like the frame of mind that they're trying to get when it comes down to their system and the issue with the fact of their current situation. So one thing that I've been seeing people talk about on Reddit or tweeting out is having different levels of professional. Like like I said earlier with the Advanced Warfare topic of pro points, is you're professional, you're semi-pro, you're amateur is kind of how it dictates it. Which to me, I can kind of get that, but you also have to kind of take into consideration what is the distribution. Because if you're in the amateur one, you're going to have, let's say 500 teams. Let's say there's 500 teams in the amateur pro point level, right? you're going to have a number of different matches where you could always find someone to play. I mean, 24/7, you're going to have someone to play at all times. We move up to semi-pro, let's say there's 150 teams that are in that. I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there just to say that. 150 teams. You're going to have a lot of matches that are going to be going on. A lot of the times you're not going to have an issue, but there could be times where you're waiting for a match to get done. Maybe it's the middle of the night you're trying to play or something like that, and you can't really find anyone. Then when it gets down to the pro, there's probably not more than maybe 20 teams that you want to have on that list. A lot of times you might not see players playing on that. Why? Because it's just a matter of how many teams are wanting to play, how many teams are scrimming at the time, just the overall number of people who are on that particular list. So if you want to have a level, in some cases, distribution of how many players are playing on that and have them only play in their particular level, meaning that pros only play against pros, semi-pros only play against semi-pros, amateurs only play against amateurs, to me, there's an issue with that. The level of distribution is totally out of whack because amateurs are always going to have a match. Semi-pros normally are going to have one. They might have issues here and there, and pros could wait a very long time to find a particular match just because it's just relied on the fact of who and how many players are playing on that particular level. So that kind of throws that out the window in some ways. And also, who do you put into either of those levels? I mean, how do you dictate who is on either one of those levels? Do you take it from tournament placings that happened? Probably not. You take it, you could take it from that, but to me, it's just really not an efficient way to do that. You look at last year's pro point distribution. Well, ESL was kind of in charge, so you can't really do that. You look at who was in the CWL last year. Probably not. There's just not really an efficient way to look at and say, hey, he's a pro, he's a semi-pro. There's a lot of guys who can kind of be put into either list. You could say, one player hasn't been playing very well recently. He's now a semi-pro. Like I said, you draw them out of a hat and you say, okay, Krim professional, Scump professional, Gunjar professional. They're like other players, like some of the lethal guys, just as an example, say, well, are they pro? Are they amateur? Are they not amateur? Are they semi-pro? How do you kind of put that? How do you dictate that? So this is one thing I think could definitely improve, obviously, the current format that we have. I think that the pro point matches are important, but I think there has to be a 2K match or 2K tournament. Obviously, it dictates pro points. You get 2K pro points, obviously. That to me is where I think we definitely need to see those happen, if not weekly, then every other weekend. And you might be saying, well, why is that? Because of the fact that to me evens it out. That's where it says, here is a tournament, here is an even tournament. It basically puts everyone on the same level, but it also says, hey, pro players who say that they're pro players, here's your opportunity to gain pro points. Team Envious, here's your chance. Echo Fox, here's your chance to stay on that top 10 or to get into that top 10 if you're Envious's case. That is your way of, in some cases, bypassing all of that grinding, bypassing all of that in some cases, and getting a 2K win, which will easily, in Envious's case, put them into that top 10. So if we have those at least every other weekend, I think that would definitely, I would hope that it would be every weekend. It would totally take out the grinding factor. Which obviously is a little bit of a hindrance to pro-level teams, semi-pro teams who are trying to scrim and whatnot. That gives you time to scrim, gives you time to work on strategies, and it also, in some cases, is a nice feel for a tournament to play against pro-level teams at a high level. A lot of times you'll watch teams scrim, they'll take it seriously, but it's like, minor callouts. Like, they're mostly working on the issues they have. If you watch teams like FaZe, if you watch teams like Envious and whatnot who scrim all the time, there's other teams who scrim all the time, but just those two in particular who I've watched. It's very, it's not high-level callouts. It's not like the same callouts you're going to see when it comes down to a regular LAN environment. You're seeing a lot of, strategy talk. You're saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't work on this. Let me experiment. I was watching FaZe play last night. Clayster was saying, let me experiment with the claw a little bit more and stuff like that over overdrive. And to a naked eye, you might be saying, oh, well, Clay's now using the claw now. Well, that's pretty crazy. But it's all experimental stuff. They're working on their game. And like I said, if you're playing against these semi-pros and you are an amateur players and you're a pro player, of course, Clay's going to drop 50 kills to get the claw pretty easily. And you might be saying, well, that strategy doesn't really develop and he can't really work on strategies because he's playing against these constant matches. But if you have 2Ks, you can rely on those. Then it, to me, totally balances a lot of things out. And like I said, 2Ks are kind of now being announced yet again. Of course, for the holidays, it doesn't make anything easier. And maybe with 2Ks being announced more often, this might not even be an issue in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road. And on the level of talking about 2Ks, I think there does need to be a seeding system. And how do you develop a seeding system? I think that is where pro points could definitely come into play, meaning that Rise Nation, they just recently won MLG Vegas. They currently have the highest pro point status. If we look at the pro point standings right now, like I said, 42,000 pro points as it stands per the 7th or the 6th, actually, the 6th of January. They currently have the highest number of pro points, meaning that they should have, in my opinion, the first seed. Cloud9 has the second seed. Optic Gaming has the third seed. FaZe Clan has the fourth seed, meaning that all the top teams have a bye, right? All the top teams have a bye, and then you work your way up. Because to me, that's an even way of doing it, because you can't have these early round matches of MV playing against E United first round or second round or third round matches that are pro point matches that are very, very crucial. Because if you look at it and say, if we do random seeding for this next 2K, and Envious is in a very important situation where they have to do well. They don't really have to, but it's very important for them to do well. And say they match up against, let's say, like an Optic Gaming or a FaZe or an ALG or an EG first round, a pro level team, and they get knocked out, then based off of a random factor, they, in some cases, now have to rely back to the grinding system, which is an issue, and we don't have to go on topic with that. So to me, the way of setting up and obviously deciding who is going to be in these 2Ks, which I'm sure that this is what the system they're going to do, but I just hope that we do see it for sure, should be based off pro points is how you decide who are in these 2Ks. Like I said, prior to MLG Vegas, it was hard for them to dictate who gets what, seeding, because were pro points. I mean, there was no, status of who has pro points, who does not have pro points. Like I said, I feel like if there were more frequent 2Ks, this would not be an issue. You just take the standings and then rank them as it may be. Maybe like you go to a certain point and then you stop, or vice versa. Like I said, I think once we add in more 2Ks, it just totally evens things out. It just totally makes everything so much easier. To me, I totally get where Game Battles is coming from. I totally get where the current system is at now. But I think 2Ks to me totally change everything. I think 2Ks totally change what happens when it comes to the pro scene. And I think honestly, when it comes down to once the league starts to come into play, pro points aren't really going to play too much of a factor. It's all going to be about tournament placings. It's all going to be about LAN tournament placings, how you do in the league, and obviously we'll be learning more about pro points when it comes down to when the LAN league happens and so on and so forth. So like I said, the grind will continue for a lot of these pro teams when it comes down to it. Of course, like I said, the top 10 from NA in pro point level standings will make it into pool play at MLG Atlanta, and the top 6 in pro point level standings from Europe will be put into the pools as well. So with that in mind, guys, what is your thoughts on some of the stuff that I talked about, the current pro pro point ladder system that's currently in the works right now? What things would you like to see improved on? Some of your thoughts, maybe thoughts that you think that could definitely change how it works. Feel free to put that down in the comments. I look at every single comment, so we can kind of have a little bit of discussion down in the comments if you guys would like. But yeah, that's going to kind of do it for today's video. I kind of discussed the current system as to what's happening. I know it was a long video, but it's very important to kind of understand every single idea, every single little minute detail that comes into it, because like I said, when it comes down to a few matches that you see players grinding, well, maybe it's good that pro players are grinding. There's so many little details that maybe give a certain teams much higher advantage when it comes down to it. So like I said, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like. And if you guys want to see some more content from me, feel free to subscribe there as well. I'll see you guys all in a future video. Make sure to stay tuned for future content. I'll see you guys all later. Have a fantastic day. Until next time, peace out.